Hello Internet, welcome back to Tromsø Twilight, the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you, the Abyss, about books, movies, music I enjoy, find interesting, or a combination of the two. The year is the accursed year of 2026, and for this year I am doing a special series called Remembering, where I'm talking about albums that were released in 1996. So each month I talk about an album that came out the same month 30 years ago. This is partly because that was the year when I became very aware of like things that were being released at the time. Prior to that, I had a kind of quite weird and personal music taste that was based on things I'd found randomly in magazines or in the library. Whereas in '96, I started to really kind of become interested in what was happening out in the world. And one of the things that was happening around that time is Tricky. Now, Tricky had come out with his album Maxinque in '95, and I think I actually got into him between the release of Maxinque and the release of Pre-Millennium Tension, which came out late '96. I remember when my friend and I bought that album on CD, and we were already, I think, listening to Maxinque at the time. This project came out in April of '96, and it is called Nearly God. It was never released as a Tricky album. It was just released under the name Nearly God, and the album was called Nearly God, but it is Tricky collaborating with other people. This is something he would do again later. The album Blowback that he did later in his career also was full of collaborations, but this first one, I think because every track was a collaboration apart from the first track, which is a cover, he didn't release it under his name. It was like a side project. Just briefly about Tricky, if you don't know who he is, I'm pretty sure you've heard of Massive Attack at least, and they are kind of Bristol's biggest music export. They created trip hop. Nana Cherry was involved with them. They were a kind of collective in the early '90s, and they kind of solidified into three key members. But on the first couple of albums, Tricky was a participant and he was a rapper on those albums. Then he got his own record deal with Island, and he made this album Maxinque in '95 that was all sample based, and he had this incredible singer with him called Martina Topley Bird, and he began to use this weird gravelly voice where he kind of whispered and growled and often was kind of in and out of the song while she was the lead vocalist, and then on a couple of tracks he kind of led it more as a rapper. Personally, for me, Tricky was very formative because he was an extremely eclectic artist. I come from Swindon, which is just down the road from Bristol, so it's almost close enough for him to be a kind of local hero. And the incredible thing about him was that he was creating this trip hop music, but with like references to punk, and he would be using uh, lyrics from the Specials as much as he was using lyrics from Public Enemy. He had a very kind of collage, weird avant-garde style. Around the time that this came out, '95, '96, he was also very kind of elusive and mysterious. Him and Topley Bird used to like turn up. She would be dressed as a groom and he was dressed as a bride with like smudged lipstick, kind of androgynous. He seemed like a very strange guy. So Nearly God is more or less a forgotten record, I think. I don't hear people talk about it very much, but I love it so much that when I first moved to Norway and I got rid of most of my CDs, I didn't get rid of this one. It opens with a cover of the Susie and the Banshees song Tattoo, where he seems to have sampled one of the sounds from the original song, slowed it down, and then he's sort of reciting the words of the original song. So it's a cover, but it's kind of a real radical reinterpretation of the song, and it's such a great opener for this record. The second track, Poems, features Martina Topley Bird from Tricky's other albums and Terry Hall from the Specials, and is it Fun Boy 3? They all have verses in the song where Terry Hall and Martina both sing their verses with different melodies, and Tricky recites his verse. I really love this track, Poems. I actually bought it on single. It's a very weird, sort of sad song about kind of end of a friendship or the end of a relationship. And the third track is sort of a weird, funky kind of song based around a sort of single loop which has Nana Cherry singing on it. The fourth track, Keep Your Mouth Shut, has got Björk on it. Björk was Tricky's girlfriend at the time when this was released. This is one of two tracks with her on, and it starts with a kind of a rap sample, but then it goes into the song that would become You've Been Flirting Again on Björk's album Post, with Tricky kind of mumbling over the top of it. It's the more Björk sounding song of the two on the record, and it's interesting in retrospect to hear her doing this song before she'd recorded it for her own album. And then track 6, I Be the Prophet, is just Tricky and Martina, and this is another one that I absolutely love. The only track that I think is a bit weak on this CD is 6, Make a Change, which features Alison Moyet, although I will say that, one, it's real cool that Alison Moyet was on this project, and number 2, I like it better now than I did when I was a teenager. It's followed by the song Black Coffee, which is a cover of the Nina Simone song, but it's just based around like a single looped piano part with a drum beat, and it's Martina singing the song. And honestly, if you only listen to one track from this album, make it Black Coffee with Martina singing. It's so incredible. I loved this song back then, and I still love it today. Track 8, Bubbles, is another feature from Terry Hall, but it's not as good as Poems. Then you've got I Sing For You, which is a real spooky kind of track. Yoga is the other song featuring Björk. It's a little bit less interesting than Keep Your Mouth Shut, but it's based around a kind of swung jazz loop. And it is worth a listen. It just seems to be the two of them kind of improvising vocals, hanging out, having fun in the studio. Then you got Judas, which is another one that's just Martina and Tricky. It probably could have been on a Tricky album. And then the last one is Children's Story, which is Martina Topley Bird doing the lyrics of Children's Story by the rapper Slick Rick. And this is another real highlight of the record. Tricky's done several versions of this song. There was a B-side with him doing the vocals of it once as well. Some deep lore about this album is that Damon Albarn was supposed to be on it, and his collaboration was scrapped. Tricky claimed that this was because he and Damon Albarn were walking through an inner city, and Tricky said, "Look at this place, like these kids, they live here, they've got nothing, they've got absolutely nothing." And Albarn said, "Well, they've got us." And Tricky, who grew up poor and was an orphan young in his life, was really offended by Albarn's arrogance. That's the way Tricky tells it, but I have to say, Tricky seems to tell a lot of stories that in a way that may be a little self-serving. So I'm going to keep this one pretty short, but I'll say a couple of other things that I think are interesting about this album. In comparison to most of the other things Tricky's done, this is really, really minimal. Like, a lot of the loops are just a single loop, but they're quite strange. It has a real sort of spooky, gothic atmosphere, and it really kind of highlights the kind of goth influence on his music. It's also a completely unique album. I don't think you've ever heard anything like it before or since. Another thing you might find interesting if you know a lot of music is noticing the samples that he's using. One of the samples, for example, is the same sample as the last track on Max and Quay, and also the kind of quotes that he uses. He quite often borrows lines or phrases from other people's music, so it's always like he's constantly paying homage, and his music is like this through his whole career. I guess it's something that he kind of takes from hip-hop, which is also very referential to its sources. Nearly God is maybe not the best album to start with for Tricky. If you're wanting to get into his music particularly, then I would recommend either Max and Quay or Pre-Millennium Tension, the one after this. I personally think that most of his albums are good, with a couple of exceptions. I'm probably going to do a deep dive video on him at some point. But if you are just interested in listening to something kind of spooky, strange, unique, and a little bit more forgotten, then definitely do check this out. And if you have a relationship with this album, if you know it, let me know what you think about it. I always am interested in asking the question whether an album stands up to the test of time when I'm doing these remembering videos, and for me, Nearly God sounds better now than it did in '96, because it's not aged at all. In some ways, it's become more interesting and more unique with the years. Jump in the comments if you'd like to talk to me about it. If not, looking forward to seeing you on another video. Thanks for listening.